My husband's best friend is more like his wife than I am, and after 14 years of feeling like the third wheel, I'm considering leaving him for good. Posted by Brokenheart34. My husband, 36M, and I, 34F, have shared 8 years of marriage and 14 years together, blessed with a precious 4-year-old daughter who lights up our world. Before me, he was briefly married to Eliza at the tender age of 18, a 2-year union that ended in divorce but transformed into an unbreakable friendship. When we began dating, Eliza, my husband's other best friend Jack, and my husband formed an impenetrable triangle, with Eliza being one of the guys while I remained perpetually on the periphery, first as the girlfriend, then as the wife, but always an outsider. Both his friends were single, and our home became their sanctuary. They would materialize without warning, making themselves at home while I morphed into the perfect hostess, preparing elaborate meals and endless snacks. During that first year, I threw myself into countless attempts to penetrate their inner circle, but each effort felt like crashing into an invisible wall. Eventually, I surrendered to my role as the dutiful host, retreating into the background of their camaraderie. The resentment crept in slowly, like poison seeping through my veins. I found myself trapped in a 1950s housewife nightmare, serving drinks and lighting cigarettes while they basked in their eternal friendship. My husband, when it's just us, is everything I've ever dreamed of, a loving partner and companion throughout these 14 years. But there's a cruel irony that twists my heart. I'm not his best friend. That title belongs irrevocably to Eliza. Every milestone in our life, every precious moment, must pass through Eliza's filter. The most haunting example came early in our relationship when I discovered I was pregnant. The test showed positive late one night, and despite our fear, my husband held me close, whispering reassurances and promising to support whatever decision I made. I asked for time to process this life-altering news, and we agreed to meet for lunch the next day after our classes. When we met for lunch, his first words were about my well-being, quickly followed by information about a doctor who performed terminations, illegal at the time. My heart froze when I asked how he'd found one so quickly, especially when I hadn't even sorted through my own feelings. His response shattered something inside me. He'd called Eliza at dawn, and she had a friend who knew someone. The betrayal cut deep. This was my most intimate crisis, yet he'd shared it with her without hesitation. The days that followed became a blur of pressure and confusion. Every conversation with my boyfriend brought new information from Eliza and her mysterious friend. Under the relentless weight of their urgency, I crumbled and agreed. The clinic was a nightmare of unsanitary conditions that nearly claimed my life. To this day, the question of what might have been haunts the corners of my mind, though I try to lock those thoughts away. When my boyfriend proposed, Eliza's theatrical display of mock outrage at not being informed first could only be appeased by making her his best man, despite Jack's presence in his life. Every significant moment in our lives became prelude to the inevitable. I need to tell Eliza, you know how she gets. The pattern was set in stone. I once shared my darkest secret with my husband, childhood trauma that had never passed my lips before. Months later, Eliza cornered me in our kitchen, speaking of a news story about familial abuse before embracing me with knowing eyes. My trust lay shattered on the kitchen floor. When hope bloomed again and I discovered I was pregnant, I begged my husband to keep our precious secret just between us. By Sunday, merely 4 days later, Eliza's congratulations felt like a slap across my face. The miscarriage that followed was a private grief made public by her presence. Depression wrapped its dark tendrils around me, and I sought professional help, another secret I desperately wanted to keep. Yet somehow, Eliza's understanding smile told me she knew this too. When I finally carried my daughter to term, Eliza descended like a self-appointed guardian angel, showering me with unsolicited advice. For the first time, I found my voice and told her to mind her own business. The hurt in her eyes sparked a confrontation with my husband, who defended her as family and insisted she was already our child's honorary aunt. That was the first time I issued an ultimatum. Eliza would stay away from my motherhood, or I would leave. It was the only boundary I managed to enforce, though the victory felt hollow. Now, sitting alone in this dimly lit coffee shop, my resentment has crystallized into something sharp and undeniable. I no longer want Eliza anywhere near my life, my home, or my husband. Our marriage feels like a supporting role in someone else's epic love story, and I'm tired of being the placeholder character in their ongoing saga. 1 month later. Life has a cruel way of forcing clarity when you least expect it. After pouring out my heart in that coffee shop, I discovered I was pregnant again. The joy that should have filled my heart was tainted by the shadow of Eliza's inevitable involvement. It was as if removing my rose-colored glasses allowed me to finally see her true nature, the calculated sweetness of her smiles, the backhanded compliments delivered with surgical precision. "Nice potato salad," she'd say, before turning to my husband with a reminiscent gleam in her eye. "Remember that potato salad I made? It was absolutely divine." Every compliment carried a hidden barb, every interaction a subtle reminder of her superiority. Our first Christmas together, she arrived uninvited with her helpful suggestions, reducing me to a silent observer in my own home as she and my husband decorated our tree, their shared laughter a reminder of my perpetual outsider status. The pattern repeated endlessly, her critiques wrapped in velvet, her presence a constant shadow over every moment of my life. I watched as she orchestrated our social gatherings, dictated our holiday plans, and even influenced our home decor with her expert eye. My husband, ever eager to please her, would jump at her every suggestion like a well-trained puppy. Eliza thinks. Became the prelude to every decision, every change in our lives. Finally, with my unborn child giving me strength, I confronted my husband. The conversation that followed shattered what remained of my illusions. His denials crumbled under my questions, revealing truths I had always suspected but never wanted to face. What are your real feelings for her? I demanded, my voice trembling. Why did you divorce if you're so connected? Why haven't you left me for her? Do you love her more than me? What is it about her that makes her impossible to let go? His answers came slowly, each word a nail in the coffin of our marriage. I love her, he admitted, his eyes distant, but I love you too. You both bring something different that I can't bear to lose. He spoke of their intense connection, how their relationship burned so hot it consumed them both. With you, he continued, I found peace, a loving home to return to. I've never physically cheated, but... His voice trailed off before he confessed to fantasizing about her being me, and me being her. The confession that broke me wasn't just his admission of love for her, but his revelation that they often discussed their parallel life together, a fantasy world where I didn't exist. They talked about the life they could have had, the passion they still shared, while agreeing that being together would somehow destroy their special bond. The absurdity of it all, that I had become the convenient placeholder in their epic love story, hit me like a physical blow. I found myself on my knees, clutching at his legs, my dignity forgotten as I begged him to love me completely, to choose me fully. What do I need to do? I sobbed, hating myself for the desperation in my voice. How can I make you love only me? The pathetic display only emphasized what I had finally come to understand. I had never been the protagonist in my own marriage, merely a supporting character in their ongoing romance. My sister later told me I was being dramatic, that I should have seen the signs years ago. Perhaps she was right. Perhaps I had been willfully blind, too afraid to acknowledge the truth that had been staring me in the face for 14 years. But when you're in the middle of it, when you've invested your whole heart, your whole life into something, it's not so easy to see the bars of your cage. Now, as I write this update, my world has contracted to 2 points of light, my daughter's loving embrace each night and the new life growing within me. My husband has left our home, claiming he needs space to figure things out. My sister and mother have moved in temporarily, their presence a steady anchor in the storm of my emotions. The legal discussions loom ahead like storm clouds on the horizon, but for now, I'm learning to stand on my own, no longer a supporting character in someone else's love story. I look at my reflection in the mirror each morning, trying to recognize the woman who let herself be diminished for so long. But there's a new strength in my eyes now, a determination born from the ashes of my broken marriage. I may not be anyone's soulmate, but I'm finally becoming the protagonist of my own life story. Top comment by Soulful Advice. Your story breaks my heart into 1,000 pieces. What you've endured isn't just emotional infidelity, it's a calculated, long-term psychological manipulation orchestrated by both your husband and Eliza. He's crafted a perfect scenario where he gets to maintain 2 relationships. The stable, nurturing marriage with you providing the comfortable home life and family he desires, while keeping his passionate emotional connection with Eliza alive and burning. His claim that he sees her as a sister while simultaneously fantasizing about her is a masterclass in gaslighting. These 2 contradictory statements reveal the depth of his deception. He's been lying either to you or to himself, possibly both. He's constructed an elaborate facade where he gets to play house with you while maintaining his soulmate connection with Eliza, who gets all the benefits of emotional intimacy without any of the real responsibilities of marriage or motherhood. You weren't their doll to play with, though they treated you as one. You gave him everything, your trust, your love, your youth, your body through pregnancy and childbirth, while Eliza hovered like a vulture, feeding off your intimate moments without having to sacrifice anything herself. The way they shared your most private experiences, your pregnancy, your trauma, your mental health struggles, wasn't just a breach of trust, it was emotional violence. Your husband is the epitome of selfishness and cruelty, and Eliza is equally horrible. He used you while keeping her around, and she played along willingly. His contradictory behavior, claiming she's like a sister while fantasizing about her being you, exposes his manipulative nature. He was living his best life, getting everything he wanted while emotionally cheating on you, though I doubt it stopped at emotional infidelity. You deserve someone who chooses you completely, who guards your secrets like precious jewels, who makes you the protagonist of your own love story. Your strength in finally confronting this situation, especially while carrying a new life, is remarkable. Remember, you're not leaving a marriage, you're escaping a carefully constructed prison of their design. Take your children, take your dignity, and build a life where you're the main character. Let them have their intense bond. You deserve something real, something whole, something that doesn't require you to make yourself small to accommodate someone else's epic love story. You were their little doll to play with, giving him all these wonderful things while Eliza got to enjoy the perks of being your husband's emotional wife without any of the real responsibilities. It's time for you to write your own story, one where you're not just a supporting character, but the star of your own life.